Hello, it's me, Editing Red. We're back. This episode has been missing for a while because my motherboard died, but we're back. First thing of note, and this is a pretty heavy way to start things off. Oh, fuck you. Hello, it's me, Editing Red. We're back. This first episode has been missing for a while because my motherboard died, but we're back, officially. First thing of note, and this is a pretty heavy way to start things off, we made a mistake. In the process of making this podcast, we've sometimes talked about the wartime career of Eiji Tsuburaya, and I would like to think we've done a pretty good job of keeping in mind who is making the shows we're watching and the very recent history of Japan at the time they aired. However, in a previous episode, we talked about the Mysterians, and specifically about how it comes across as a condemnation of one of the Japanese Empire's most infamous crimes against humanity, the sexual slavery of those referred to as comfort women. I even personally went so far as to say something along the lines of, it's refreshing to encounter a Toku alien invasion story that positions the aliens as Imperial Japan in the sort of the same sort of vein that War of the Worlds puts the aliens in the role of the British Empire. But by talking about it like that, we fucked up, because we brushed past some uncomfortable facts about the director, Ishiro Honda, and his direct involvement with the very same war crime. We unthinkingly bought into a whitewashed version of events, and while recording today's episode, we hit a key detail that seemed to contradict that story. Razan looked into it and has recorded an addendum that we'll plug in when it's appropriate. He'll give you the appropriate content warnings for the subject, and I'll pop in to give you a timestamp on when the addendum ends, so you can jump ahead if you need to, which we understand. It's a grim subject. So, yeah, we apologize. We're not a big podcast, but we do take this stuff seriously, and we don't want to contribute to any whitewashing of this history. Now, second thing of note, and don't worry, this one's less alarming. At the end of the episode, we talk about the complicated schedule of what's coming next. Ignore it. It's all out of date. This episode was recorded a month ago. What's happening next week is there will be an episode of Blazar on Monday. There will be an episode of Ultra Q, covering the next 3 episodes of Return of Ultraman, on Thursday. That's it. Blazar Monday, Return of Ultraman Thursday, back to the usual schedule. So yeah, thanks for sticking with us. Alright, that should be it. I'm done talking. Hit the music.
敵は必殺技の贈り物大地を飛んで流星パンチ近くに立ってウルトラチョップ凶悪怪獣倒すため帰ってきたぞ帰ってきたぞウルトラマン
Hello, you are listening to episode 39 of Ultra Q. My name is Red. I'm joined by Mel.
Hey, happy birthday, Red.
Thank you. And I'm joined by Razan.
Well, now I gotta say happy birthday too, or else I'm an asshole. Happy birthday, Red.
Yeah, I got you a present.
What's the present?
It's Ultraman. He's back.
Thank you for the present. I would have asked for something
You
else,
are
but
in danger.
But you know what? What we've got, I'm all right with it. So coming up, we're going to be talking about the return of Ultraman. The first 3 episodes. As a TLDR for the first 3 episodes, Hideki Go dies, Hideki Go fucks up, and Hideki Go gets a new dad. Yeah, all that to look forward to. But I guess before we get into that, first of all, I haven't done fucking shit this week. I've been playing a couple of games here and there, but I haven't done anything. So I have freed myself of this segment this week.
Oh, so did you have a good Halloween, Red?
I did not watch any Darkstalkers. Nor did I play any Darkstalkers. When you posted that, I was like, okay, that's weird. And then you posted the audio version, and I was like, the what?
Well, yeah, it's a podcast, right?
Yeah, it's a podcast.
Yeah, with Sanwa button mashing in the background.
It's very important.
Well, I asked Mel, I was like, I'm playing with stick. This is going to be loud as fuck. Like, I don't mind stick noises, but I'm sure normal people do.
I was like, it's part of the ambiance.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, fine. I will go forward with this.
It is one case where it was like the video version was made as a primary intended version, and the audio version is secondary, but also,
Yeah, I fucked up and didn't record in 60 FPS, which I still feel bad about, but it's fine.
I do think your surprise reaction was wonderful, though.
Thank you. I was very. What happened was you posted that it was up, and I was like, I hadn't made the connection that there was a Halloween bonus, and I was like, I don't know what Mel's talking about. And then it was hours later when I saw the tweet, and I was like, what? What's happening? But yeah. I have freed myself of this first segment. Has anyone done anything they want to talk about?
Yeah, kind of. A little bit. So my segment this week is going to be...
I guess I'll just preface just in case anyone is jumping on for Return of Ultraman. First of all,
yeah, technically this is the first episode of the new season.
That's true.
This is the first episode of a new season. We are going through the Ultra series in order, mostly. We're making exceptions where we feel like it. Basically,
yeah, like next week.
Like next week, where schedules get inconvenient. So we're doing that. We watched Ultra 7. We finished Ultra 7 last time. Ultra 7's amazing. You should watch Ultra 7.
Favorite part.
Go ahead.
My favorite part of Ultra 7 is when the 7 Ultra guys were on the crucifixes. The thing that definitely happened.
Yep. See, part of the fun of this is that 2 out of the 3 of us know fucking nothing about Ultraman shit.
Yep. I was fully certain that was part of Ultra 7. I was sure I had seen that somewhere, and I was like, yeah, that's Ultra 7. Nope, incorrect, wrong. My next guess, I don't know. It'll be like an 80s one.
I think it's in the 90s. I feel like the crosses are very 90s.
I should point out that there is only one singular 80s Ultraman series.
Oh, is it Ultraman 80?
Yes.
Well, that's my guess.
Okay. All right.
I'm somewhere in the 90s. That seems like a very 90s coded thing to have happen.
Mm-hmm. I guess we'll see.
Mm-hmm. We've already seen Ultra Q, we've seen Ultraman, and we weren't super high on Ultraman. But he's returning this time, and
yeah, he's back.
He's back. We'll see how we feel about Ultraman again.
Yeah. When the Boltons come back, that's return spelled with a V.
Yes. Yes.
Lucina Barati Pergolpic.
Mm-hmm. We've got hopefully Hideki Go is slightly less murderous. We'll see. All in good time. But yeah, most of the time when we do the show, we start with a little just catch up, because This is an excuse to hang out more than anything. This podcast is for us. You're a guest. Sit down.
Yeah.
Enjoy your stay. Anyone else done anything this week?
I also had a pretty sparse week. I have learned that American healthcare, as we all know, is a wonderful exercise that I would not subject my worst enemy to. Anyways, my doctor is retiring and sent a letter in the mail like, hey, you need to find someone else. And I was like, I do. I have learned, I never knew this. You can have two doctors who work at the same hospital and they don't both take the same insurance? I don't understand that at all. Like, what?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I do not get it. So that's that was number one. Number two, I have too many books and I was like, I need to build a shelf. So I bought a shelf. The assembly was terrible. I kind of got what I paid for. It was like, I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it was like cheap enough because I didn't want like a really fucking, I just want something to put my excess books on. So I built that, and that was took way longer than it needed to take. And then someone's being really annoying at work, and I think is on the verge of being fired. And I kind of had to clean up after their mess, so that was not fun. But one thing I did carve out time for is I just happened to see a tweet that was like, hey, Godzilla 2000 Fathom event is happening tonight. And I was like, oh, is it? Okay. Fuck it. Why not? I need some fun in my week. So I drove over 30 minutes to another city to go see it because they don't have showings for it where I live. And Godzilla 2000, it's okay.
Oh.
I think this was the one that they made after the TriStar Films American Godzilla 1998 movie, and they were like, oh, well, we can't let this just... We can't let that happen. And then, they're like, okay.
Is this the one where American Godzilla is in it?
No, that's the Final Wars.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
This one is about a journalist who teams up with a father-daughter team, with the father being a professor who has since left his job to start the Godzilla Prediction Network, which is like a group of amateur storm chasers, but for Godzilla sightings.
Okay.
Which is a very strong premise. They have their own little zine culture. They are really big on the fact that they're like, no, Japan needs to study Godzilla and we need to learn to live side by side with him. And by learning everything about him, we can simply get out of his way and we can live in harmony with him. However, he has an old former he has a former friend turned rival who works for the military now, who is all about learning more about Godzilla so that they can blow him up. They do not get along. Complicating this is the fact that there is a meteor that falls into the ocean and then starts to float, and then the military goes, that's not how that should happen. Turns out it's a spacecraft depicted using the worst 2000 era awful CGI I've seen in a while. Mm-hmm. It looks real. I saw this thing flying around on screen, and my first reaction was, this reminds me of like a PS1 FMV from like a Square Enix game of the time. It's really ugly.
Damn.
Can't believe the meteor from Final Fantasy VII landed in Godzilla.
Kind of. It very quickly turns into a ship. But I was really worried that there's a little bit towards the end where the ship kind of turns into a squid-like thing, and I was really terrified the final fight of this movie was going to be Godzilla going fisticuffs with a giant CG squid goop monster thing, and I went, oh no. But fortunately, it turns into a larger, or I guess it creates a larger kaiju that is actually a really sick suit, and they fight for a little bit, but it's not what I want out of a Godzilla movie. It's just not enough cool stuff happening in terms of effects or anything for the majority of it, and the story stuff that is there isn't good enough to carry the rest of it. None of the characters really have much of an arc except for the antagonist who basically gets dunked on for wanting to kill Godzilla in a Godzilla movie. It does have one of the coolest scenes I've seen in a while, though, where Godzilla approaches a man and, accepting his death, standing on top of a rooftop, going like staring eye to eye with Godzilla, he just lights up a cigarette, and I was like, yeah, that's a good way to go, honestly.
Nice.
But yeah, I was really let down by this one. I thought the idea of our protagonist, or at least our Aizen character, being a like a Godzilla storm chaser was really strong, and they don't really do anything with it, and that kind of bummed me out. So they try really poorly in the last 5 minutes of the movie to be like, well, if you think about it, there's a little bit of Godzilla in all of us. We're all monsters. And I went, nothing.
No.
Nothing leading up to you saying that really justified you saying that. It was really dumb.
What if we were all Godzilla?
Yeah, it was really stupid.
I wish I was Godzilla.
Yeah.
Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Tokyo SOS Clear.
Yeah.
Came out a few years later. Much better movies.
Yeah, I'll get to those Millennium series ones later in our watching.
Yeah, I didn't watch fucking Battle in Outer Space again. I just did not have time.
Yeah, that's fair. Though I do have to warn that the longer you forget to watch it, the less the movie I'll remember.
That's fair. I will. Well, I guess I can't get to it this week because I'm going to be fucking gone next week.
Yeah,
so
yeah. You have a stay of execution.
Yeah. Anyways,
Actually, it'd be funny if like you just weren't here for the next 2 weeks, so I'm like it's like a month between. And like, yeah, I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I guess I should say that for housekeeping. I will 100% be gone next weekend and will not be there for the recording, and I may be gone the weekend after that, but that's kind of up in the air. We'll see. But yeah, that's my week. Mel, what have you been up to?
I have a couple of stuff I can lob into the arena. First of all, last week was Halloween, so I've done my yearly Halloween tradition where somehow I ended up watching every year a fighting game OVA. Started in 2020 with Darkstalkers OVA because that's thematically appropriate, and then I decided for the bit every year I just watch a different fighting game OVA. So then the year after I watched Street Fighter Alpha OVA, and then last year I watched Tekken Bloodlines because that was new, and so this year I watched something else different, which is the first two Fatal Fury OVAs.
Okay.
There's a third one that's like a full-length movie, but I was like, I can say that for later because it's like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So another year. For now, these were all right. They weren't really exceptional, but I think they're fun enough. I think as like here is an early '90s animated thingamajig that's like around an hour. Yeah, it's just like the first. I think they're like both loosely based off of like the first and second Fatal Fury. The first one's about like Geese Howard assassinates Terry Bogard's dad as he does, and then Terry and Andy have to like go defeat Geese Howard, and it's very like by the numbers. But Terry does do a power wave, which is cool.
Thank you, Terry.
And then,
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry. The other thing is, the second one I think is like more interesting. It's like less. It has a bit more going on. It's still not like exceptional, but there's like some decent moments. The movie opens up with like Krauser, the final boss of Fatal Fury 2, going ham on a pipe organ after donning armor and like throwing a rose up in the air, which is like sick.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the movie, Terry gets beaten the shit out of him by Krauser, and so he has to go on this like he's going through this arc in this movie where he's like, oh no, I was beaten and now I'm afraid of Krauser, so I'm just gonna become a drunk in Germany for a bit. Which is funny.
That's what you do when you lose at things in life.
The second movie also introduces Mai Shiranui, who was not in the first OVA, but maybe she wasn't in the first game. I haven't checked. Kim Kapawan shows up for like 5 minutes and then leaves.
Yo, I love Kim.
But yeah, it's, I think the first one's fine, but it's like 45 minutes, so whatever. If you like Fatal Fury, sure. Second one's I think better. Still not exceptional, but it's like, it's like a early 90s OVA for like a certain thingamajigs. Why is this shit like jigs? Yeah, just for like, SNK Fun a Gay property. So yeah, it was cool. I'll get to the movie in another year. I also want to do the Street Fighter 2 movie at some point, so we'll see. I'm not particularly plus to rush this, so whatever. It's just a little fun thing I like doing on Halloween. Also, I started another seasonal anime this past week.
Which one?
I watched the first 4 episodes of the Apothecary Diaries.
How is the Apothecary Diaries?
It's pretty good. I think it's pretty nice. I kind of started it because I saw people I follow really liking it, including like some of my friends who are like Precure fans being like, oh, this is some Precure stuff. Some listen to this podcast. Oh, hey. It's a pretty nice, pretty show. But the premise is there's this girl named Mao Mao, no relation to our guy. She's like just a young girl who's like works as an apothecary in like a red light district.
How does she feel about landlords?
Good question. I don't know. She's like, works in an apothecary. She like lives in like a red light district and is like, knows all the girls in the brothel kind of thing on a friendly terms. But one day she gets like randomly kidnapped by some people and then sold to the Imperial Palace as like a servant. Something she's very nonplussed about. She's like, this is a drag. Maybe one day I can die out of here. Rip. And she's extremely like, I don't want to cause trouble by drawing attention to myself. Unfortunately, she's the protagonist, which means she has no choice but to use her particular talents to draw attention to herself.
So it goes.
Where she's like, oh yeah, she's like, because of her apothecary skills and knowledge of like medicines and poisons, she like, there's like a case going around where the palace concubines are like, them and their children are getting like poisoned, and like, what is the cause of this? And like, she intuits right away, the makeup baby powder stuff is poisoning them. And then she like leaves a note, and then like the chief eunuch sort of guy sort of like notices this, and he's like, well, I guess we're getting roped into being our doctor house for the Imperial Palace. And she's like, oh, cool, great. And so basically the show so far has been like a kind of like a case of the week sort of setup where there's like a medical poison related thing going on, and it's like, what is the mystery? And then she solves the mystery, and I feel like, I guess like on the mystery standpoint, isn't like the best if you're like actually looking for like a ancient Imperial Chinese, I mean, completely fictional country, not based on anything in particular.
Yes.
Newkirk City.
Yeah. Yes. If you're looking for that, like in a serious like medical mystery, you're probably gonna not be too impressed. But I think it's just like, the characters are fun. It's just like it's entertaining seeing the characters, interact. Seeing Mama is like a fun protagonist because she's like the archetype which I'd compare also like Haruka from Dawn Brothers, where she's like the protagonist who's like the straight man who's like has no nonsense. She's like not really interested in what anyone says. I mean, she's kind of above it all, and I think everyone's like saying nonsense, but then she's also unhinged in her own way. Where she's like a sicko for like apothecary stuff to the extent of like doing experiments on her arm, and it's like, well, okay, calm down. there's a good scene in episode 3 where like the head eunuch's like attendant is like talking to her at night, and she's like, and he's like, yeah, so I noticed that like you're pretty disrespectful to like my superior. I'd request that you please show more respect, because when I talked to him about it, he's like really into you being disdainful to him, and I don't want to deal with that.
Damn.
I just posted the scene in tweet form for you.
Nice.
But yeah, it's
like a venomous caterpillar. Ecstatically.
he's just like, nah, please be more respectful. I don't want to deal with this masochism, please. Yeah. But yeah, so it's pretty good, I think. At least, you know, I'm keeping up with it.
Nice.
So I guess we can. I've been busy with work, to be honest, for a lot of the week, which hasn't been great.
Society keeping us down.
Yeah, didn't realize I sent that tweet to you when I started that jog as like a joke, and I'm surprised at how quickly it's becoming actually true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't work in produce.
No.
Or any grocery store.
Suika game out here ruining lives.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess we can. This is
We can
record time.
We can Hideki go to the polls.
I'm gonna kill you. I don't know how many episodes in a row I've threatened that now, but
I think it's like 5 at this point.
death threats are a staple here. Okay, we're gonna talk about Return of Ultra 7.
Yeah.
Do we have anything we want to talk about?
Ultraman.
It happened.
That.
It happened. You got too used to. You finally have now corrected Ultra 7, but it's too late.
It wasn't even deliberate. It
I know.
wasn't even deliberate. I considered deliberately writing in a joke about it in the summary.
I love this for you.
Yeah.
Pain. Purest pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Return of Ultraman. We're going to talk about the Return of Ultraman.
Yeah.
Do we have anything we want to talk about before we get into that? Like, is there some production stuff that...
Yes. That is the start of a new season, which means I have done some production note history.
I would like to know some
I got
history,
spoiled in
please.
the process.
Yes,
So
I heard.
never say I don't do anything for you again.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I feel like this is the first time where like I got spoiled on something, and like my response was, "I really wish I didn't know this." Fuck.
Damn.
I'm upset. It's fine.
Spoiled on something specifically for the show or for another unrelated
show.
Ultraman thing? Okay.
For this show. It's okay. To quote the illustrious Gilbert Durandal, Shikatanai.
Yeah.
Anyway, my source for this was, the Mill Creek Handbook, as usual. Also, as usual, the Ultra Blog DX, link in the description. And also, I did some of my own research by DeepL translating the Japanese Wikipedia page. Now, let's begin.
Tell us about Return of Ultraman.
So, we finished off the sort of original trilogy, so to speak, of the Ultra Series Showa era. The plan was that Ultra Series would end after Ultra 7, and Eiji Subaraya had his own like ambitions for what to do next. After the Westabu, doing shit like Operation Mystery and Mighty Jack. Even so, Ultra Series stuff was like continuing to sell well, and so people at Subaraya were like, well, people do like the idea of more Ultra stuff, so, maybe have something to, we can think about it. There is a sort of an internal acknowledgement that, like, yeah, there is like an appetite for more Ultra Series stuff.
Even with Ultra 7 not doing numbers, that's interesting.
Yeah, the merch was selling well, at least. Unfortunately, end of an era January 25th, 1970,
R.I.P.
Eiji Tsuburaya dies, and Hajime Tsuburaya becomes the president of the company. And he's got kind of a bad situation on his plate because the company's not doing so good.
Uh-oh.
Because Mighty Jack and Operation Mystery were both cancelled due to poor ratings.
Oh, no.
They cancelled
and in
Mighty Jack?
Yeah.
Criminal.
And in 1969, at that point, Tsuburaya was mostly working on special effects assistance, and they don't have any original shows in the pipeline.
This is the most, like... We're so back it's over with, like, Ultraman making a bajillion... Like, Ultra Q making a bajillion dollars, Ultraman making even more money somehow than Ultra 7. It's like, And that was just, oh no, we're in trouble.
Yeah. And then, even more concerning was the relationship between Tsuburaya Productions and Toho. Because despite how much banger sales Ultra Series did, Tsuburaya Productions was basically still like a small satellite studio of Toho.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, all of their successes were only possible because Toho gave them filming and financing, and use their studio, you can use their resources, etc. And this relationship was not a business relationship between Tsuburaya Productions and Toho. It was a personal relationship Toho had with Eiji Tsuburaya, the guy who made Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra and brought the special effects to life.
Oh,
that makes sense. They're like, yeah, we know you're his son, but who the fuck are you?
So Hachime's issue is, irrespective of his own actual talent and his own capabilities, he was not the guy who brought to life Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra. And his existing resume, I guess, on Ultraman TV show episodes is just not as impressive as Toho films that made Toho money.
I mean,
So,
I'll be fair to Toho here. Setting off lots of fireworks all at once is not as impressive as the original Godzilla.
So you don't like Alien Cool?
I like Alien Cool.
Alien Cool's so
I know
cool.
you
Yeah,
like
we
Alien
fucking
Cool.
found out last week.
I would have shown up at Toho with the Alien Cool puppet and be like, okay, but I mean, look at that. You don't want to fund more of this? What's
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Things like, Mighty Jack not doing so good are Toho will yeah, it's okay when it's Eiji Tsuburaya and not his son.
Mm-hmm.
And also they did have knowledge that Tsuburaya Productions didn't have anything in the pipeline at the moment, and they were underfunding. And they were like, well, I guess it's time to pull out. You had a good run, but it's just business.
Mm-hmm.
And Hachime's like, fuck. What the fuck do I do? Fuck. Need something cheap, low cost to keep Tsuburaya Productions afloat. Don't want to burn the bridge with TBS either. We want to keep our TV channel locked in. So we need something we can throw out while we need to buy time because we need an actual show, but we need something quick and easy in the meantime.
Wait, was Return of Ultraman supposed to be a bridge to new things?
Now, hold on. The idea was, TBS has some sports commentary stuff. So what if we took some existing footage and dubbed over some fight scenes, and treated it like a sports highlight reel?
Okay.
However, we planned for 130 episodes of this, and there's not enough footage, so we need some new footage. We need to make it cheap. We're going to go out into the woods and have a bunch of people in kaiju suits beat each other up and then do commentary for it. And that'll get us to 196 episodes.
God damn.
And this new series was called Ultra Fight. And Hajime was like, this will probably not go over well, but it's something. We just need to buy time and we'll make it work. But somehow Ultra Fight was really successful. Because it turns out, some people were like, damn, Tsuburaya Production, what are you doing? Just scraping the bottom of the barrel with this cheap nonsense. But if you're a kid who had not seen Ultraman and Ultra 7 before, then you watch this shit and go, oh fuck, that looks dope.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really into it.
That makes sense.
And then, in the meantime, we're also getting 1970, we're getting some reruns. Famously 1970 was when we got the rerun of Alien Spell that got the episode banned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is the period where like they're starting to TBS is starting to rerun Ultra series stuff. This is when Ultra 7 starts to get popular again because people are watching the reruns and go, yeah. So like
good
interest,
TV. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is thing. People are starting to get more interested in Ultra series stuff. And meanwhile, the idea of reusing footage for compilation movies will happen again in the future. And then also, we're going to get Ultra Fight's going to be significant in its own way. We're going to check it out next week. But it's also going to lead to like the creation of more. There's going to be future Ultra Fight themed things. And we also get things like a Red Man, which is also basically off-brand Ultra Fight. We have a bonus episode of Red Man. You can go back and check it. Basically, with this, Hajime was like, all right, in order to save the company, we need to bring back the Ultra series. And thankfully, you remember when we talked about how there was like some internal acknowledgement that maybe they should bring back the Ultra series? Mm-hmm. What if, in his hour of need, Hajime Subaraya could turn to his dad's last will and testament? Eiji Subaraya himself actually had an idea that he's like, okay, we can pitch this to TBS, and he pitched it in 1969 before he died.
Okay.
The working title was Soku Ultraman, which basically means Ultraman sequel or Ultraman continuation. Later, he came up with the title Kaitakita Ultraman before passing away. And that's the name of the show that we have right now. Return of Ultraman. Ultraman returns.
He's back.
The proposal. 30 years after the original Ultraman, Hayata is retired from the SSSP. Ultraman comes back, and Hayata says, Hayata comes back, and we want come on. Blah, blah. Ultraman comes back to reunite with Hayata, but Hayata says, 1, he's too old for this shit, and 2, who are you? That wasn't the pitch, but
it should be.
It should be in the pitch. So instead, Hayata passes on the mantle of Ultraman and the Beta Capsule to his protege in the SSSP, Hideki Ban. The show would be heavily based on the original series and would have lots of returning characters, except for Muramatsu, who is also retired and too old for this shit. There are issues with this proposal, though. One, if you're going in that hard on like doing an Ultraman sequel, it's kind of like the proposal kind of ignores everything Ultra 7 brought to the table. And 2, it would have been hard to get back all of the old cast. And finally, sponsors did have some issues about like just bringing back the old things again verbatim if you're trying to sell new merch.
That makes sense.
So they're tweaking things a bit. And so with this, Hajime Subaraya grabs his 2 guys that he trusts implicitly. You got Shozo Ohara as like the key writer, and Yoji Hashimoto as the producer to try and take this pitch into rework into something. To start off, the SSSP is gone. We got a new team, new squad.
Yeah. Matthew.
Yes. They redesigned they tried to redesign the SSP's suits and the aesthetics for the new decade, while also like keeping some of the militaristic sensibilities of Ultra 7 to try and create like a different take on sort of the same orange jumpsuit, basically.
That was the exact vibe I got, so they nailed that.
Yeah. Hayata was dropped as a mentor. Instead, our new hero, Hideki Go, this time, would have 2 mentors, one in the form of the Mat Captain, and the named Katsuchiro Kato, and another in his friend, Ken Sakata. Basically, they wanted to simplify the story, maybe tone down a bit the social commentary from Ultra 7, instead go for more of a conventional hero story like Ultraman. But they're going for like something. They wanted an arc. The idea was that Hideki Go would be a normal guy, and he got ultra powers, and I have to like grow as a person and grow into being a hero with like Spider-Man, new powers, new responsibilities.
Yeah, I can tell the
episode. He's a real character.
Yeah, he's a guy. Hashimoto was also like a guy whose experience was with like dramas, and so he wanted to add that as elements into the show. There's also the fact that the kaiju boom was over and pulp sci-fi is not having the same draw, and so people were more into dramas anyway at the time, so they're like, okay, well, let's bring some of this in. There's also the fact that the Ultra series had gained a larger adult following because of the reruns, unlike Ultra Fight, which is more of a kids thing. So they're like, okay, a lot of people, Ultra 7 had a sizable audience, a lot of people are adults watching these shows, now we should target the adults audience with this new show. They contrasted Deki with, like, Hayata was, like, the perfect hero, to his detriment, I think you'd say.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Dan was, like, definitely more of a guy, but, he didn't really have much in the way of work-life balance. We didn't get much scenes of him outside of...
Yeah, he was also still...
A few times
he was still the Ultra... He was very, like, explicitly, he's Ultra 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Deki, they wanted to, like, really focus on, like, the personal life as, like, another side of the story. He's, like, he's in Matt, but he's also, like, he has the aspirations of being a racer. He has, like, a life with the Sakata family. Uehara was also just, like, he was really into the idea of, like, here's an immature hero, but, like, grows over time. There's also an interest of the setting. So, like, I guess, like, the implicit title Return of Ultraman implies this is an Ultraman sequel. We haven't really seen, like, explicit references to that yet in the show yet, but, like, they do say that this is, unlike with Ultraman and Ultra 7, where they kind of, like, at the time positioned as, this is the vague future, and didn't really emphasize the Japaneseness of the setting. They were like, well, we wanted to try and sell this overseas, so we didn't try to tone down how Japanese was, which Akiza Sochi got in trouble about, apparently.
Yep.
This time, because they were like, the Return of Ultraman is going to be more of a domestic. This is more for the domestic consumption, so they don't care as much. They're like, yeah, this is just 70s Japan. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Pre-production is pretty smooth. TBS was like, oh hey, yeah, more Ultraman. That's fine. Give it to us. That's all good. Though this is going to be interesting. Unlike the previous shows where they did it in batches and episodes were often done well in advance, Return was not made with a big backlog of episodes in advance. For better or for worse, to some degree, this would be a blessing in disguise. So the show premiered to great success in April 2nd, 1971. However, the target audience, adult audience, the adult audience really liked it, but kids quickly began to lose interest because of the focus on human drama.
Where have I heard of this before?
Yeah. Also, fact is, Super Arrow was working on a budget, and so some of the effects and stuff weren't as impressive as they used to be. Thankfully, though, in the windfall of the very successful premiere, they suddenly had a lot of extra money there, and they were like, all right, we can use this extra money to do a really cool two-parter special effects episode, which we'll get to later, and I won't tell you which one it is right now, because I don't want to spoil the future. Basically, they did like, okay, here's a cool special effects stuff that we put on early enough. They're able to like shift gears really quickly, and then they're able to start getting more of the audience back. This part where I will abstain from talking about future episodes right now. Some people who are more familiar with Ultraman stuff will say, hey, you're missing some of the backstory of this show. And I'm like, yes, I am trying to keep Raz and the Red in the hyperbolic time chamber of 1971. So please bear with me. There's stuff I'll loop around to later, because there's like stuff that happens later in the show as the show's like changing a lot more in response to the audience, unlike the other shows. And that'll probably be true going forward a lot too. But basically, the two on didn't read at the moment, the TLDR, is that they eventually managed to turn around halfway through, and the show was starting to really become a big success at this point. Similar to Shin Ultraman, they had found a new audience called women, also.
Damn.
Merchandising was really flying off the shelves. Kids loved the toys. There were apparently 4 concurrent manga adaptations happening at the same time, which is crazy.
Jesus. That's too much.
That's
I
way
don't know
too
how that
much.
works. That's crazy. I don't know how that works.
Do they just
but anyway.
all have different... Was it just like one of them started and then a second one was like, no, you're doing it wrong. And then a third one was like, no,
I don't
both
know.
of you are doing it wrong.
This reminds me, I think it was Devil Survivor 2 had a manga adaptation for the game and then a separate one for the anime, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Why are there 2 Persona 4 animes?
You
Anyway. At the end of the day, yeah, like it was born out of dire circumstances, but like when they started making it, it was kind of a smooth production pipeline. So, at the end of the day, like Return of Ultraman was exactly that. The Ultra series were brought back and become like a major pillar of pop culture once again. We started seeing like a new boom in like the kind of like hero stories and kaiju stories once again. And, basically, because of like, they were able to bring Ultraman back, Supra had put themselves back on top and, to reclaim their throne. And it was there to keep. Ultraman was like a juggernaut again.
Nice. Well done, Hajime.
On an unrelated note, April 3rd, 1971, in the day after Return of Ultraman's premiere, extremely in the shadow of, the big Juggernaut premiering. I don't know why they did this. Toei put out a premiere of their own new show. I forgot the name. I think it's like relegated to the footnotes of history.
Mm-hmm.
I think it had a really alienating premise. The protagonist, I think, has like some kind of bug mask.
Right, yeah.
Yo!
He rides a motorcycle, I think. I think there's Nazis. I don't know. It sounds really weird. I don't think I'll ever catch on, personally.
No.
Definitely will have no impact on history, on the cult culture, on the tokusatsu genre, in any capacity.
No.
Not when Ultraman's there.
This show
that's for sure.
would never have the balls to use bubbles for its special effects.
It's definitely not. Absolutely not. Don't know what Toe's doing.
Man.
Shame for them. They're such a small studio. But yeah.
While Hideki Go is doing his best, they've Kamen Rider is putting the most handsome man on screen. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not for long. That motorcycle's coming for.
But yeah. Very interesting that like Return of Ultraman starts, and then almost immediately it becomes a post-Kamen Rider world. And I guess we'll see where that takes us in the future.
Yeah.
Hell. I actually don't know, but I thought it'd be funny, so I said
We'll see in like 4 months when we start talking about Ultraman Ace.
the asexual Ultraman.
Of course.
I'm very excited to be represented.
Um,
I'm demisexual, but like umbrella.
I'm, Ultraman's got themes for you. Mm-hmm. It's
I'm also an alien in disguise.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
yeah.
I do think it's funny how this show starts as just a straight up sequel, and now we are so everything you just discussed happens, and we are now at a point where it's like, yeah, I mean, Ultraman's there, but everything else is completely different.
Yeah.
TV production.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just gonna run through the actors real quick, as I tend to do for this.
Yeah, go for it. Maybe I will remember the character names. I know there's...
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're starting with a new gang. We'll have to get used to them.
Yeah, it always takes a minute. We'll get there.
First off, our protagonist, Hideki Go,
got that
played
one
by
down.
Jiro Den.
Who, if I believe he recently passed, correct?
Yeah.
So we talked about it on the show, I think.
Yeah, in our first Ultraman episode, we just, because of the time, we mentioned that Jiro Den passed away March 22nd, 2023.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure he's like the first like protagonist we've had so far where their actor is dead. And what timing. But yeah, these guys are getting old.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is the captain of Matt, Katsuichiro Kato, played by Nobuo Tsukamoto.
Okay.
Uh,
Kato.
we won't ever remember this for good reason, but he technically has been on the show before.
Oh. Who was
He previously played Professor Aikawa, who I guess was one of the scientists in Ultra Q, The Underground Express Goes West.
Oh.
Ah, yes. How could we forget? It is weird how many people involved with that specific episode seem to be showing back up in, like, future Ultra things. Like,
I mean,
there's that kid that became a suit actor. It's wild.
Yeah. Next, Takeshi Minami is played by Shinsuke Ikeda. Then we got Ippei Ueno, played by Ko Mitsui.
Okay.
Then we have Fumio Kishida, played by Ken Nishida. And finally, Yuriko Oka, played by Mika Katsuragi. Extremely looking at some of these names going, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, there's some cheating here.
It's some cheating. I don't feel like this is the first time they'll do that. Or the last time, I mean.
Yeah.
And then, whoa, it's crazy. For the first time, we have a cast of recurring characters outside of the defense team.
There's like three
We got the
people.
Sakata family. The Sakata family, we got first the older brother, Ken Sakata, played by Shin Kishida. Then we have Aki Sakata, played by Rumi Sakakibara. And then finally, Chiro Sakata, played by Hideki Kawaguchi. And of course, we got the guy in the suit. The Superman actor for Ultraman this season is Ichi Kikuchi, who previously was a suit actor for Ultra 7 in Ultra Guard Goes West specifically. We talked about that last season.
Okay. Cool.
But now he's Ultraman.
He's Ultraman for real.
Yeah. Unlike Ben Furia, who
Quit.
broke out of the suit.
Yeah. He escaped.
Yeah, and they got caught and put in a bubble.
He did get put in a bubble and then in a jar. All right. Sick. Do we have anything more before I launch straight into Return of Ultraman?
I think we're good now. I got the story. I got my bit with the music in.
Yeah. All right. So, Return of Ultraman. First things first, right at the top. These summaries are going to be way shorter than seems reasonable, but you have to understand they're very straightforward episodes. We're making TV for kids again, kind of.
Yeah.
Like there's drama, but it is... The Ultra 7 episodes were dense sometimes. All right. Episode 1 of Return of Ultraman. No more Ultra Guard. Now we have the Monster Attack Team, or MAT, or as I'm going to call them, the Team. Like 2 or 3 kaiju start fighting in Tokyo, and the team launch to engage them. A young man called Hideki Go is working on a race car, the Meteor, but when the kaiju attack, he runs into danger to rescue a rogue child. On the way, he also rescues pigeons and a dog. And then
I was like, this was too much. I was like, okay, I get it. He's a good guy. Jesus Christ.
Then he fucking dies.
You need to see his true hero's heart to understand why.
It's like, is there an old lady that needs to cross the street too? Does someone need a jar open? What's going on?
Now, I will say he is not a perfect hero because he's also a misogynist.
Yes.
Yes, this is true. A lady in uniform does show up to help, and he's like, I can't let a woman do this. I, a man on the street, will help.
Yes.
Yeah, that does happen.
Woman whose job it is to save people, stand aside. Yeah, then he fucking dies. His body is visited by his friends, Ken, Aki, and also by Kato, the MAT captain, who's like, damn, wish we had a guy like him on the team. Rip. Overnight, Hideki Go is visited by Ultraman, who admires Go's spirit and decides to merge with him. Go is resurrected. The captain invites Go to join the team, but before Go can give a response, he detects a kaiju far away, and he runs off to stop it. Once again, he finds himself rescuing children. He's just the norm, the usual. But this time, when all seems hopeless, he transforms into Ultraman. Of note, he does not push a button or anything. He just transforms.
Yeah, it just happens.
He just stretches.
Yeah.
It's like, then I'm Ultraman.
He defeats the kaiju with the Spacium Beam back, and then respawns as an unconscious Go. The team find him and introduce themselves to their newest member at the end.
Oh, well, first, we forgot the part where the end where, like, Hideki has, like, an internal monologue with Ultraman.
Oh, he does. He does have that.
And Ultraman's like, yeah, I picked you because you seem pretty cool. And Hideki's like, oh, damn shit. I'm Ultraman.
Yeah.
Dope.
Ultraman's like, for my second trip to Earth, I decided I need someone whose goodness I can use as a shield to defend my crime. I
need someone who'll be awake for me so I have plausible deniability.
Yeah, I also need someone with personality because that last guy, geez, boring.
Oh, man. Hideki Go, hero of the hour, dies, comes back, like, within 24 hours, not 3 days later, and saves the day, and he's in the team. Also, the Ken and Aki and the kid, they burnt the meteor, they burnt the race car.
Yeah, they
scene rules. I love this.
They put like the photos in a bank and a bouquet in, and they light fire to it. And it becomes extremely funny in like 5 minutes when
he comes back to life.
Comes back to life, and he's like, "Bro, what the fuck?"
It's like.
Well, now we gotta start all over again.
You were dead. What was I supposed to do? I saw your corpse.
It's also really good. Just like the scene, he like Go wakes up. He's like, "Oh, where am I? Oh man, I must have got knocked out or something." The nurse comes in and he's just like, "Oh hey," and she just like freaks out.
Yeah.
And Kato's like, "Damn, this guy came back from the dead. Now we really need him on the team."
Yeah. Need that. Need that immortal.
Also,
Go ahead.
Okay. I like how I was like, oh yeah, Ultra 7 likes to double up a lot with kaiju. I'm sure Return of Ultraman will be lower. I immediately get owned by introducing 3 kaiju in one episode.
I was thinking this. I was like, Mel said.
Okay, since we're here, I do want... Let's talk about this. How are we thinking about our first episode kaiju compared to the previous seasons?
They're kind of standard.
Yeah. There's one that's like a weird, like, seaweed man.
Yeah.
Is, I guess, how I describe him. He stuck out to me. And I was like, huh.
Yeah,
then there's
the
one that's just kind
alive.
of like a... Yeah. And then there's the one that's just like... The one that shows up again in episode 2, I was like, that's kind of whatever. But...
He's kind of like a weird octopus ball thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's...
He's the one that kills Go, which is the funny thing.
Oh, that is funny.
Oh shit, you're right.
I feel like some of these guys look more impressive compared to like Bemular, maybe.
This is true. The thing is, but it's been so long.
I mean, it's Litra and Gomez.
I mean, Bemular, looking at Bemular right now, Bemular does look uniquely kind of shit.
I guess that means that we have no choice but to concede to Raz, and the Alien Cool's the top.
Alien Cool's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alien Cool clears.
Best first episode kaiju. Yeah, official. God damn.
Did anyone else watch this and just go like, "Oh, the fucking 70s are here"? Because I just the way everything looks, like I'm happy you referenced what you talked about with like, oh, they're the setting they want to like lean in more like this is a show for a Japanese audience being made in Japan. Because I definitely felt like the way this was shot in the first episode, I was like, wow, like this feels like it has a sense of place and like. I don't know if I want to say community necessarily, but this feels like a lived-in city more so than what we've seen even, I think, in like Ultra 7 and Ultraman.
Yeah.
And that stood out to me. And also just the fashion. I feel like there's more care being taken.
Yeah, I particular note of like a sweater in episode 3 that was like, yep, the 70s are here.
Yeah.
To me, it's the hair. Everyone's hair. I'm just like, whoa, okay, time has passed.
It's amazing it's amazing what 3 years makes.
Yeah, right? I was thinking that too. I was like, oh my god, it's like not that long of a jump, but you can feel it.
Like
time has passed.
It's just funny that like because Hideki is like a character with a life outside of being in the mat, like it kind of I guess encourages or let them lean in more into the contemporary setting more than like well, if you only like really focus on being inside the Ultra Guard, then you can pretend like it's like the 2000s instead of like, the 60s.
I kind of want to talk about Hideki, but I feel like I actually want to save that for episode 2.
Yeah, we can
so
pin that.
Should I talk about why I reacted so strongly last week to who directed this episode?
Unfortunately, I was also spoiled on this for research in my research background, but I do want to hear Red's reaction.
Tell me.
This episode was directed by Ishiro Honda.
Oh, what?
Creator of Godzilla.
Oh, goddamn. All right.
And then written by Shozo Uehara. I'm just gonna spoil this because I don't want to say it every fucking time. The first 7 episodes of this show are all written by Shozo Uehara.
I got the impression in the production house that he's like the head writer of this show.
Yeah. I think this is the longest streak I've seen so far in anything we've covered of episodes covered by the same writer.
Yeah. Yeah, do we have a blurb for Ichiro Honda?
Oh, do we? Because, I was like, I don't, like, I know why this guy's important, but I don't actually know his personal history all that much.
Like, I mean, this is his debut on the show as an episode director, so, I figured we gotta get a biography in.
So, one of the most famous Japanese filmmakers of all time.
Yeah, he is.
He is credited with inventing the kaiju and tokusatsu genres, along with his friend and special effects director, Eiji Tsuburaya. Perhaps you have heard of him. This is the result of when they created the hit 1954 disaster movie Godzilla. Gojira, technically, but, he grew up in a Buddhist temple and came from a very religious family. I believe his father was actually like the head of the temple, or like the abbot, I believe is the term they use for that.
That's not a Japanese term.
No, but I looked at it and apparently
an Indian term.
Yes, I looked and apparently this is like a thing that they actually just call them. I don't know like what exactly was going on there, but
that's got to be a
doesn't...
translated equivalent.
It has to be.
It does remind me that like in like the 1500s, because Europeans didn't have a real understanding of the weird political dynamic in Japan relative to their own, they just like, oh, so the Japanese emperor is like the Pope, right? And the shogun's the actual king.
It's probably that going on, because I kept seeing the term abbot used to describe his father, and I'm like, that's not right. And like it got to the point where I was like, were they Christian? And then I looked, I'm like, no, this is a Buddhist temple. So yeah, that threw me for a loop. But his father was like the head of the temple.
I mean, abbot seems like the translation that has been picked. I mean, in the same way that like Japan's emperor is not actually. I don't actually. He's not actually called emperor, but he's the emperor. That's the equivalent that we call him.
Yeah.
So I guess Abbot's abbot.
Yeah, that's how
there
it
are
goes
also
sometimes.
nuns. There are, Well, I mean, I guess this isn't weird because monk.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that is true.
Yeah,
we don't think twice about that. So, despite this, he despite growing up in the temple setting, he showed a greater interest in science than his siblings did at a younger age, and his father actually encouraged him a lot to pursue this interest. He was like, oh yeah, if you're less interested in the like spiritual, like religious stuff and have that interest in science, go pursue that. Very supportive. Unfortunately, he kind of hit a snag here where he struggled in school. When he got to the subjects that required like the use of equations like chemistry and algebra, he just couldn't wrap his head around it. So he kind of flip-flopped around like, what am I going to do with my life? At some point when he was going through school, he discovered he had a passion for films and went to the movies a lot. He then eventually enrolled in an experimental art film program at Nihon University. Unfortunately, because of how experimental and new it wasn't the most well-managed thing in the world, and actually a lot of his, like, contemporary, like, peers and stuff dropped out because they were like, this program sucks. But Honda made it work. Apparently, whereas other people were frustrated by the fact that, lecturers just were not showing up to teach the classes and just suddenly, like, classes would be canceled for the day, Honda took this in stride and would simply go to the movie theater, watch a movie, and then take notes and be like, well, I did my studying for the day. He took film discussion and criticism very seriously and often tried to join or create student groups with the goal of discussing movies or collaborating on writing a script or getting a movie going. But he got frustrated because people would join these groups and mostly just use them as an excuse to drink and socialize. And he was like, I'm here to talk about movies. You guys just want to be friends. Fuck that, I'm out. He did find work as an assistant director after school at a company that's name I forgot to write down, but it is the one that would eventually go on to become Toho. That didn't last long. He got a draft notice shortly after graduating, but he kept in contact with his employer. Like, they were like, yeah, like, no, we hired you. We like what you're doing. You're going to work here after your military term is up. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So it sounds like by all accounts, he would have had fairly regular military service for the time. Obviously, this is like Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. And where he was, like, his regiment, like, they were heavily involved with the Chinese occupation. From what I gathered looking into this that was where you wanted to be if you were a Japanese soldier in World War II. Obviously, the situation there, horrendous, well documented, the atrocities that went on there. But you were mostly free of the dangerous fighting that was going on in the other Japanese fronts. Comparatively, the situation in China was a lot less dangerous for the average Japanese soldier. His military service would have otherwise been unremarkable, except for the fact that one of Honda's former commanding officers, Yasuhide Kurihara, was involved with the planning and execution of the February 26th coup attempt. Which, if you're unfamiliar, was an attempt by a faction within the Imperial Japanese Army to eliminate its political rivals within both the civilian government and the military, and it did not go well for anyone involved. So despite not having any involvement with the planning or execution of the coup attempt itself, anyone with ties to Kurihara was considered just immediately, they're like, we're considering you complicit and a dangerous person. So he and the rest of his regiment were sent out to China under dubious pretenses, basically just to get them out of the country, to be like, we don't want you starting shit here. We don't know if any of you are sympathetic, but we're not going to run the risk. So he would end up going back and forth between Japan and China at this time. Eventually, during like some of his like leaves or whatever, where he was back home, he would marry someone and start a family. It kind of sounded like the woman's family wasn't super thrilled with it, but by the time they had their first kid, they were like, well, we're not getting rid of you now, so we'll help out. I didn't make note of it, but it did seem like Honda did go out of his way to be as nice as possible to the Chinese populace that when he had interactions with them.
Yeah.
Comparative to other Japanese soldiers stationed there, he was like, I don't want to be an asshole.
I remember, like, when we talked about the Mysterians, I brought up, like...
I'm going to get to that.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
going to get to that.
You got it.
So twice in his career, he would be forced to go back to a military assignment almost immediately after one of his children was born, which sounded really rough for him. It's just like, oh, I have a new daughter or son. And then it's like, well, gotta go back to China. Sorry. And that wasn't easy for him. From 1940 to 1941, he was assigned to manage a comfort station brothel, comfort station, quote unquote, which he would later write an essay about in Movie Art magazine, detailing both his experience there as its manager and also the experiences of the women who worked there. And this was like a very influential article that brought to light what exactly was going on there. And like we talked about with Melsa and the Mysterians, like, he did not have great feelings about that, and that is very easily reflected in the Mysterians' actions in that movie. Mel, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I just thought like it was important to bring up.
Yeah.
To his biography.
So while he managed to avoid the worst of the fighting in World War II, Honda was captured at one point by the Chinese National Revolutionary Army. He actually had a pretty good time. His captors liked him, said they treated him great. Towards the end of his captivity, the locals even offered him a permanent position at their like local Buddhist temple. And he was like, I almost accepted, but then I was like, I have a family back home. I should probably take care of them. And he was like, sorry, but I got a family. And they're like, that's okay, dude, we understand. And it overall seemed like he had a pretty good time in captivity. They liked him a lot. At some point, he was almost killed by a mortar shell that by all rights should have killed him, except instead of blowing up, it just landed right next to him on the ground and did not detonate because it was a dud. This obviously shook him up pretty bad. Later in life, he went back to the battlefield to see if he could retrieve the mortar shell. He found it exactly where it landed, and he was like, I'm taking this back home. And he kept it as a personal memento on his desk in his study until he died. After the war, Honda worked at Toho, where he created a variety of films. He got his start mostly as a doing assistant directorial work. And he helped out on educational documentaries, and then later was then promoted to being a feature film director. One thing to note at this time is that underwater filming was a tricky endeavor, and he helped create some of the innovative techniques at the time to make sure that the cameras were housed in like waterproof casing so that they could actually be used by divers to go underwater and capture natural scenes and stuff like that.
The oxygen killer.
Funny note, and I looked directly at the camera as I read this part and went, this reminds me of something. Honda apparently wanted to design an amateur submersible vessel to be used for underwater filming, and everyone above him went,
my God.
And everyone above him went, that's a terrible idea. You're going to get someone killed. We're not letting you do this.
If only other people could think like this.
So that never happened, and they just ended up using professional divers. But apparently Honda was like, if we made a special submarine, we could go a lot deeper. But, probably a good idea that didn't happen.
James Cameron carrying on his legacy.
Honda would go on to work on and direct a ton of movies across a variety of genres. I mean, we remember him as, the kaiju guy, obviously, but he did do a bunch of other movies, like dramas and so on and so forth. He did, obviously, of course, do a lot of the Godzilla sequels. However, something of note is that Toho's contract with him became less and less concrete and stable over time, even though he was kind of like their beloved, he's the guy who made fucking Godzilla. But 1965 on, they were like, we're not going to renew your contract. In fact, we're going to just kind of work with you on a movie by movie basis, and we'll talk out the terms then. Didn't sound like he was super thrilled with this. And should be noted, TV was becoming more and more popular at this time. And we've kind of talked about this before, how like there's just like a lot of Japanese film people who get fed up with the film industry and then move to TV. Like I feel like we talked about that a lot when covering Ultra Q and Ultraman people.
Yeah.
It just sounds like actually there might have just been more money in it actually in the 60s, which makes sense, I guess, considering the time and how new it was, and you know, broadcast is taking off and all that stuff. So he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna work in TV for a bit. But then he also would come back to work with Toho to make a Godzilla movie here and there. He said he was retiring in 1975 after directing Terror of Mechagodzilla, but then Akira Kurosawa talked about his retirement. They had worked together on multiple movies. Honda does have credits on quite a few Kurosawa movies, actually. They, by all accounts, were pretty good partners. And Kurosawa's like, hey, do you want to maybe work with me on a few things before you really retire? And he said, why the hell not, sure. And then, yeah, he passed away, I believe, sometime in the 90s. And his wife died, I want to say, his wife lived to like 101, and I want to say died on like the 60th anniversary of Godzilla or something ridiculous like
That's
that.
spooky.
Yeah. But yeah. That's the story of our friend Ishiro Honda. Interesting man.
I didn't.
Very significant guy.
Yeah.
When we talked about the Mysterians, I hadn't realized that he ran the fucking. He was like a manager.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
he was told like you're the manager of this place now, and he had some strong feelings about that. Yeah.
I mean, damn. That's kind of fucked up.
Hey everyone. It's Rosin here with an interjection. After we got done recording this episode, I felt compelled to do more research on the particular subject of Ishiro Honda and his involvement with the Comfort Women's Station between 1940 and 1941 that we touched on here. Just considering the fact that this is such an incredibly heavy topic, I felt like it warranted a deeper discussion than as a throwaway anecdote in a larger summation of Honda's life. In doing so, I have discovered that our podcast has stumbled onto a much larger cultural conversation regarding Honda's complicity in Japanese war crimes during World War II, as well as his impact on the broader political discourse surrounding this issue in Japan. Understandably, this is going to be a very triggering segment, as it will be discussing rape and sexual slavery. I'm going to ask Red to put a warning and timestamp in the beginning of the podcast for when this segment ends.
1 hour, 27 minutes.
So if this is going to be something you need to skip for your own personal well-being, please refer to Red's note at the beginning of the podcast for an accurate timestamp for where to go. I do want to start by giving a brief description of what we're talking about when we refer to the term comfort women, because in our discussion we definitely assumed some familiarity on part of the listener, just due to the fact that this subject remains fairly controversial in the modern day, and if you are a fan of Japanese media on the internet, you have already likely encountered some discussion of it before. Despite that, I think we wouldn't be doing our due diligence as a podcast if we didn't provide an overview. Comfort women, a translation of the Japanese term ianfu, refers to the women and girls who were forced into sexual slavery by the Imperial Japanese Army in the places they occupied during World War II. During the podcast, I refer to the comfort station using the term brothel, which is used on Wikipedia as well as many Western sources on comfort women. However, I do want to apologize, and I do want to note that in recent years there has been some pushback to the usage of this term by activists when discussing comfort women, because it does leave open the interpretation that they worked in these camps as sex workers of their own volition. Make no mistake, this is absolutely not the case. These were women and girls who were trafficked and forced into sexual slavery by Japan. Many of them were Chinese and Korean citizens who were displaced or impoverished by the war and were promised jobs as nurses or as factory workers. These were opportunities that would provide them with financial security, medical assistance, and reliable access to food and water, when none of those things were guaranteed. Others were promised access to a higher education, while some were just forcefully kidnapped and taken from their homes to serve in the camps. Instead of using brothel, it is more accurate to, in fact, call these comfort stations prison camps, where those confined were raped daily. Unfortunately, a significant portion of them were children. In the discussion you just listened to, you heard in real time our surprise to the revelation that Ishiro Honda was not just stationed at one of these prison camps, as we had previously believed, but had a managerial role in some capacity in its day-to-day operations. As I dug deeper into this topic, I found that there is very good reason for this to have come up the way it did in the podcast. Up until a few years ago, there was very little acknowledgement or desire for clarity on this particular part of Honda's life in the English-speaking side of the internet, as far as I can find. In fact, an argument could be made that up until recently, Western biographers and historians writing about Honda and his work may have deliberately skimmed over this part of his personal history, either out of a sense of discomfort regarding the subject matter or as an attempt to preserve his reputation as a loved and influential filmmaker. In my own personal research, I have found a tendency for Western writers to massage details of this part of Honda's life in an effort to exonerate him or provide some degree of additional deniability, and I would like to clarify at least a couple of these details for our audience where I can, while accepting the fact that due to the language barrier and a lack of primary sources on this particular topic, this task is somewhat difficult for me to do as a Western English-speaking person in 2023. A sentiment that is often shared by those pushing for a larger cultural discussion on this issue, and one that I would like to personally echo here, is that it is not the place for tokusatsu fans to forgive or absolve Honda for his role in this historical atrocity, regardless of his later statements, work, and actions. To do otherwise would be deeply irresponsible. That sort of forgiveness can only be granted by the survivors, and even then, this still does not account for those that were killed while confined there, or who later died by suicide or drug addiction, which were frequent consequences of the trauma inflicted on these women. To the best of my ability, I will provide as clear a picture as I can of Honda's involvement at the camp and his public statements of his experiences later in life. The first point of confusion that often occurs when looking into this part of Honda's history is what his exact role was at the camp. Often you will see people state that he was positioned at the comfort station as though he was just a regular guard with no real authority of his own. Elsewhere, you will see him referred to as the comfort station's manager or main administrator. While his exact position does not seem to necessarily be recorded, Steve Reifel and Ed Gatsuzuki's biography, Ishiro Honda, A Life in Film from Godzilla to Kurosawa, which was a book that was written in partnership with Ishiro's granddaughter, Yuko Honda Yun, indicates that he was certainly involved with its bureaucracy to a degree beyond that of just an everyday guard. He did have some degree of authority in the day-to-day operations. One of his duties was to perform weekly medical checkups on the women there, where he would hear their stories. In the biography I just read the name of, Honda is quoted as saying, and I quote, "I couldn't do anything to help them, but I told them my story, that being here was also not my choice. Getting the draft notice with my name on it, that's the only reason I was there. They began to understand they were not the only ones, that the men were also forced to do things. When they would return to the brothel, they could accept their situation a little better." He would go on to describe the tragic stories of many of the women and girls he met there, lamenting at the end of the segment, quote, "War is evil. Once it starts, no one can stop it." End quote. Obviously, it should be noted that even if what he says here is true, this is to some extent a false equivalence. Even if they were working there reluctantly, the men staffing the station were still complicit in the abuse of its prisoners, and the fact remains that there were still many of the men who took advantage of the station without any degree of remorse whatsoever. It was clear from Honda's personal journals that he was not in favor of the war, nor of the Japanese Imperial Army. One of his personal journal entries reads, quote, "I'm trying to adjust to the environment around me, but if you are a normal person in this place, you'd either kill yourself or go crazy." End quote. He strongly disagreed with his superior officers' use of physical violence on their subordinates, as well as the abuse of the Chinese populace by his fellow soldiers. In his own words, he strove to treat everyone he encountered as humanely as he possibly could, considering the circumstances. When the subject of Honda's involvement with the Comfort Station is brought up in historical writing, it is almost always including a reference to Honda's essay Reflections of an Officer in Charge of Comfort Women, which was published in Movie Art Magazine's April 1966 issue, as we just discussed in the podcast. Without additional context, references to this article seem to portray it as almost like an expose or a tell-all piece, or at the very least that it is remorseful or apologetic in its nature. However, according to Brian Shersel, host of the review show Kaiju Vision Radio, this is not necessarily the case. For one thing, the essay was published in Movie Art Magazine instead of another outlet because it was made in response to an Italian movie that had recently released that depicted sexual slavery in ancient Rome. Scherschel also notes that while he doesn't have access to the complete article, what he does have access to does not seem to read as though it is particularly apologetic in tone. Rather, it seems to be more of a formal, matter-of-fact recollection of his experience there. However, the broader Japanese political landscape also does need to be somewhat considered when discussing this article. Cultural conversations regarding the treatment of comfort women have often been silenced by conservative political groups who frequently downplay or outright deny this and many of the other atrocities committed by the Imperial Army during World War II. It could be argued by painting such a transparent picture of his experiences at the camps in such a public manner, Honda was, in practice, pushing for greater awareness and justice on this particular issue. Still, the fact remains that Ishiro Honda was complicit in a war crime, regardless of his personal reservations. Due to a variety of political reasons, many Japanese war criminals escaped prosecution for acts that got their German counterparts imprisoned or executed. Even if Honda's body of work, as we discussed in our Mysterian segment from a few episodes ago, does gesture at feelings of remorse, the fact remains that if justice was properly carried out, Honda should not have been allowed to have a film career at all, and should have been forced to answer for his role in the system of sexual slavery that he worked within over the course of 2 years of his life. Again, it is not our place to absolve Honda for his complicity in one of the darkest chapters of World War II, nor conveniently ignore it when discussing the legacy of his work. No matter how uncomfortable it may make us, we do need to acknowledge that this piece of Ishiro Honda's life casts a long shadow over the history of kaiju and tokusatsu fiction, and should be given time and consideration when discussing the man and his life. That's all I have to say about this. I'm going to let you get back to the main part of the episode. Thank you.
Wow. That was a cheery little turn through history. Ichiro Honda. Interesting life.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
I just got one last footnote.
Go ahead.
Apparently, in Japanese, the name of this episode is the same as the 1968 Godzilla movie Destroy All Monsters. It's just the same title.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny. I noticed the similarity because episode 1, at least from this booklet here, is called All Monsters Attack, and I was like, oh, that's kind of similar to,
Yeah, like it just translated differently in English, but like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is like Godzilla Raids Again, when it probably now would be translated as Godzilla's Counterattack.
So, do we have anything more to say about this episode?
Strong first episode. I like our characters a lot so far that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, well, we can talk about it later, but I feel like I still need to get the sense of most of the
most of the
math guys,
rest of the team. Yeah.
But like
I can see the foundation, but I do need more.
But also the Sakato family is very good so far.
Ultra 7 giving us the little run through of like, Soga's the marksman, Furuhashi is judo guy,
gymnasist for some reason in that opening montage.
Oh yes, that's what he does. That's what he does. I remember.
Not featured discussions with Small.
No. Yeah. So, episode 2, which, I haven't done the fucking... This is terrible. I haven't done the titles.
It's Takong's Great Counterattack.
Okay. Hideki Go is too good at everything, and it messes with his brain. He beats the team at shooting, kendo, and judo, and he comes away with the impression that being Ultraman means he can do no wrong. Unfortunately, he can and will do wrong. The team have a plan to dispose of an underwater kaiju by teaming up in 2 submarines to corner it so it doesn't get driven onto land. But when Go and Minami's sub find the kaiju, Go fires the torpedoes, despite Minami's best efforts to stop him. When Minami falls unconscious, Go tries to turn into Ultraman. And fails. This is the most important thing in all 3 of these episodes. He can fail. Back at base, Go is dismissed from the monster attack team and returns home with hopes of starting work on the Meteor 2, a follow-up to the race car that was burned last episode. But Ken, refuses, deciding Go needs to not distract himself and instead confront his failure head on. He doesn't tell Go this. He instead says, Go, I don't want you racing in my cars. I need someone younger than you. You're too old.
You're too fucking old.
We do not... You may sit on the council, but we do not grant you the rank of master. Alone, Go realizes the error of his ways and also how much he wants to be in the MAT.
He also realizes there's a lot of Ultraman merch around.
Yes, there's a kid with like an Ultraman mask. It's like, that was quick.
I mean, to be fair, this is him returning.
So this is, I guess,
Ultra 7 did not leave an impression on the children.
I mean, remember, that was an alternate universe.
Shit, you're right. That is true.
The Boltons are still alive in that AU.
Yeah, Go didn't stop him.
Mm-hmm. He detects Go detects kaiju activity again, and he rushes off to do his thing. While the team fight the kaiju, Go arrives on the scene, rescues some people from an oil fire, turns into Ultraman, and handles the situation. The kaiju is destroyed, and the captain reveals that he knew Go would return without orders too, and this was the intention all along. And he wanted Go to realize, his place. Go is reinstated. The end.
This was the episode of the show where I went, oh, this was the show that I thought Ultraman was going to be when we started it?
Yes.
And then was immediately undermined because Hayata is just not a person.
Yeah. This is just solid stuff. This is just, Go is like, oh, I'm Ultraman. I'm so cool. I don't know.
Yeah, it should be stressed how, like, he's facing off in all against the other guys in, like, the thing they're good at, and he just wins, and he's like, are you sure you're a novice? Like, and he's just like, yeah, I've never done this before. And he's just like, oh man, it's Ultraman skill, stop him.
I'm the best. And then it turns out that actually what is valuable is teamwork, and he fucks up. And
it's wild to me how much of this is just stock superhero stuff of, oh, you have to make sure that you're using your newfound power and agency smartly, and also, oh, you gotta balance your real life stuff with your saving the world stuff. And it just somehow, in the context of Ultraman, feels so refreshing to see these things that otherwise are very standard in this type of story.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, this is like, is this as common, at least in Japan, like, before this, or is this more like kind of new at the time?
I do not know enough about Japanese fiction of this era, I would say, to make that call.
Like, I assume it's like, in the 60s, you get some of that stuff in the comics already. Like, I'm pretty sure Spider-Man debuts in the 60s, right? So, I don't know how much of that's like in other media.
And, Spider-Man popular in Japan.
Yeah, they made a show about him.
Yeah.
Toei did, actually, but,
when was that?
It was later 70s, because it was like in between the second
78.
Yeah,
I
it
looked
was between the second and third season of Sentai.
So yes, the most important bit in these first 3 episodes is the reveal that Ultraman doesn't have to show up.
Yeah. It's clearly showing like a division between Ultraman and Go as like beings. That's kind of more like Blazer, where like they're technically 2 different characters in one body with like different goals sometimes. Because like, and that's different, of course. Like, you know, because like Dan is Ultra 7. He's just the same person. And like functionally, Hayata is also Ultraman because
he's not
Hayata
there.
was
He's
asleep
not
the
there.
whole show. Yeah.
He's chilling.
He is a saltine cracker of a man with like nothing going on.
Yeah, and Hideki Go, I think it's something that happened in like the Geronimon episode of Ultraman, where Ide was like, well, Ultraman can just show up and fix everything. I don't have to do anything. And in the context of Ultraman as Jesus, it makes Hayata being like, well, you have to try. You can't just let Ultraman save you. Does make some kind of sense. But in the context of Ultraman being the hero of the show, it did come off as kind of unhinged for him to be like, well, no, someone has, you have to go to great lengths and someone's going to die before I'm going to do anything.
Yeah, and like in the episode, it's like Hayata / Ultraman could have became Ultraman anytime they wanted, and here it's like,
yeah, but this is slightly different in terms of like his he's a D&D paladin. He didn't stick to the code, and so he couldn't transform. And
like Ultraman was like, nah, you're not doing this right, you're not being the proper hero. I'm withholding my powers until
and I think in this context it comes across a little less it's a little less wild. I think it works fine.
Yeah, I think it's good. I almost get the sense that like it's kind of like Blazer manifests the disc when convenient. It's almost like that with Ultraman here too, where it's like, well, it's time to go, and Hideki's like, yeah, I guess it is time to go.
Yeah, they skip the fucking toys this time.
Yeah, which I appreciate. I'm somewhat of a toy hater.
Unfortunately
guy with
for you,
too many Gunpla.
Yeah, unfortunately for you in this Toku franchise.
Yeah, no, it's coming. It'll hit us like a wave at some point. I'm sure of it. But I do appreciate. I mean, this is basically, I feel like, just another rephrasing of what we already just literally talked about. But it does feel like being Ultraman is a blessing bestowed upon him in a way that it just did not in the original. That I thought was interesting. He's not owed it. It's not like immediately going to come to him.
Yeah,
that's a good distinction.
One thing we skipped over in the first episode is just like when like Hideki dies. Separate to that, there's like a weird flash of light that scares off Takong, and like it's revealed later in the episode, like, oh yeah, that was Ultraman says to go. That was me, but like I can't manifest physically without like a human host, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I think that was interesting.
This is something I do like, actually, as a reframing, because if I recall, they never said anything like that in the original Ultraman. He just wanted like a host to like blend in on Earth, basically, right?
I mean, it was kind of like so what happened here is like Ultraman sees Hideki and is like, well, you are a good soul in spite of your misogyny, so I'll give you a second chance on life. I also need a host to do stuff, win-win cooperation, etc.
Yes.
And then meanwhile, in Ultraman, it was kind of like a car accident in space, where the Ultraman orb crashes into Hayata, and Ultraman's like, my bad, I'll give you my life force so you don't die.
You telling me Ultraman is against misogyny? Damn, that's unusual.
Maybe it's a good point. Maybe he's just like, because of your misogyny.
Because of your... I was unsure about you, but when you told that woman to stand aside, I knew you were the one.
I was gonna make a joke. I was like, "What? The opening this time isn't a bunch of children in a choir going, man, man, man." But I do, because like the framing between Hayata and Hideki here, like the original Ultraman one felt a little bit more like him taking like pity on like, oh no, I accidentally killed him while like this happened or whatever. Whereas this, not only is he saying, okay, you deserve a second go at things because you, oh god, that's I didn't intend for that pun, but you deserve a second chance at this because you displayed how good of a person you are by saving so many life forms in the span of like 10 seconds. But also there is that element of I cannot operate fully in this world directly. I need the conduit of humanity needs to be made for me to have my impact, and that's just always something that I've enjoyed in my speculative fiction, of this idea that the higher powers cannot immediately have direct material interaction with the world without there being some sort of avatar or through line between, like a passageway almost between like an actor, like a person that is carrying on their will. That's just a framing that I tend to find more enjoyable, so I was kind of happy to see it here. It makes things feel a little bit more mysterious or like out there in a way for me, rather than just like, oh, God and his angels are coming down and they're beating up the kaiju this week.
You know what? Something I didn't mention about episode 1 that I did notice was they didn't shoot it from the angle required. But there was a moment where Hideki Go's view would have just been blowjob Ultraman shot.
I did also notice this. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm happy that you covered my bases for me.
You're welcome.
Truly, we have returned to Ultraman with all the same bits. Time to back American Prometheus. He will also return.
This Hideki Go guy got some interesting ideas.
Oh, I mean, yeah. There's nothing much to say about the kaiju because it's the same kaiju that was in episode 1. Well,
yeah, literally the same one. Even they even said like, "Oh yeah, that one got away, and now we're out to get it." I like the part where it's
weird meatball with suction cups and legs.
Yeah. I like the part where it sprays Ultraman in the face because it's funny.
There is one thing that does actually need to be noted, is there is like, they keep doing like a much less overt version of kind of Jisoji style with the way they shoot the fights. It's a lot of like it's a lot of like using like the front like scenery to reduce like the size of the frame. Like it's not like, I would not call it an homage. I would not go so far as to call it that, but it's like very like there's slightly more happening, I think, here.
I wonder if it's just Ishiro Honda and Akira Soji are like a similar wavelength creatively.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is Honda is a decent director.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know who directed episode 2.
Ishiro Honda.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. But yeah, it's you know, there's some decent shit going on. It's, you know, it's nothing mind blowing, but it's stock and standard in the way that, again, we were kind of thinking Ultraman was gonna be, and then Ultraman wasn't. Ultraman was ridiculous. So yeah, do we have anything more to say about episode 2?
No, it's just it was fun.
Yeah. I guess, you know, I like Ken. I like the
Ken's good.
I like the gang that he's got outside of work.
It took me until episode 3 for me to actually hit home and realize, like, oh, they're going to be part of the show. Like, they're not just origin story side pieces. Like, they're main cast. I was like, oh, okay, let's fucking go.
Building the car is going to be an arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Build that fucking car. And then use it for a dinosaur tank episode once it's complete.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so episode 3 of Return of Ultraman is called, I believe, Evil Monster Realm of Terror.
The Monster Realm of Terror, same thing.
Well, you know. 2 guys get killed by a kaiju on a mountain as Go is flying overhead in whatever the MAT jet's called. No idea yet.
I forgot. I think I tried to look it up, but then I forgot. But it's fine. We'll find it eventually.
These 2 deaths get reported as death by falling rocks, but Go is certain he saw a kaiju on top of that mountain. He even took photos, and the team back at base spend like a funny amount of time debating whether there are any kaiju in the pictures. To settle the argument, the captain does maybe the dumbest thing possible. He dismisses everyone and then just goes to the mountain by himself to see if there's a kaiju there. I don't know what he's planning to do if there is a kaiju there.
And also without telling anyone he's doing this.
When it turns out there absolutely is a kaiju there, he's stuck and can't radio the base. Luckily, the team realize he's missing and deduce he...
Oh, wait, never mind.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, specifically Go realizes that he's at the mountain, and no one else does.
Yes, the team realizes he's missing, and Go is like, oh, he's gone to the mountain, hasn't he? And everyone's like, why the fuck would he do that? Is he stupid? And Go's like, yes, I know he is. Flying overhead in the MAT jet, Go decides he's just going to jump and parachute in by himself. At first, Go can't find the captain, but he has a flashback to the death of his father. He had been mountain climbing and gone missing, and the rescue team had given up just 100 meters before they found his dad, injured and helpless. Hideki Go has learned an important lesson from his mistake. 99% of gamblers give up just before they hit big.
Lot of bizarre how 2 in a row we have weird, tragic, like mountain climbing incidents in our protagonist backstory. I mean, I guess not technically our protagonist per se in Ultra 7, but it was part of the origin of like how the Dan persona came to be.
Go finds his new dad, and they find out there's actually 2 rival kaiju up here. Go runs off quickly to turn into Ultraman, deals with the 2 kaiju, and then comes back. It's at this point the rest of the team arrives, having climbed the mountain the old-fashioned way. The captain is rescued, and the mystery of the mystery of the mountain is dealt with. The end.
I love that. So we all love Dan, and we love that immediately he becomes the shining star of the Ultra Guard, or whatever the fuck they call him in like episode 5.
But everyone on this team fucking hates Go.
Yes, it's awesome. Like, this is what happens when some guy who's just better than everyone else shows up on a team and is just, like, calling shots all of a sudden. Nobody likes that guy.
Especially the guy who fucked up last week.
Yeah. It's like, Go, could you shut the fuck up about the kaiju you saw on the mountain? I took photos. No, you didn't. Show me the photos. Oh, that could just be a rock.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Minami, how was work today? Oh, you never believe the new kid.
Minami is like the one guy who's like remotely willing to throw
this is true.
bone, but also
This is true.
But also there's a limit to this.
Guy thinks he's hot shit because he hit 6 bullseyes in a row of the firing ring.
Oh, we did not talk about hitting 6 bullseyes in a row at the firing ring. The other guy has like a perfectly good, reasonable spread of shots on his target, and then Go fucking Robin Hood with a pistol, shoots bullets through the first hole he shoots in the target. It's ridiculous.
I think Kishida just hates Hideki the most out of anyone.
I hope this remains. I hope this.
Same.
I hope he sticks to his guns.
Also, I just noticed one thing I forgot in episode 1 is that they tag Ueno as the horoscopes guy.
Yes,
They do.
the return. Oh, actually, another thing that returned. They referenced like as a
Ultraman.
throw. Yes, that took me longer than I'd like to admit to understand what you were doing. They reference as a throwaway like university name Jonan University again, which I had noted in one of our last Ultra 7 episodes, because that's also the name of like the fake throwaway university that they use in Kamen Rider, and then eventually just kind of became like a Kamen Rider thing across multiple shows. And it's like, it's weird that it showed up again, and I'm just like, is this just like an early Toku thing that then like only Kamen Rider really like kept? I think that might be the case.
Maybe. It might be.
Maybe.
Yeah, so we got some backstory on Go and his dad. I think I think maybe the wrong lesson has been learned, but that's okay. Emotions are high.
Yeah.
Both guys just get injured a bunch on the mountains.
Yeah, as this is mountain climbing. The episode starts with young people young people are constantly looking for adventure, so they go climbing random mountains. So this is an odd little note at the beginning. The kaiju in these episodes, in this episode, has got like it's like two of them. One of them has got like. I think they're a little unremarkable.
Fun note. The second one that shows up, that's really kind of junk, to be honest. It's called Dead On. Apparently, it was going to be Telesdon from Ultraman.
Oh.
And they're going to reuse the suit. And they did technically reuse the suit, but when they found the suit, it was like, oh no, this did not survive, and so it just became a new kaiju because it was like basically fucked up beyond recognition.
Oh,
please remind me, what was Telestan the one with like the weird dragonfly? No, Telestan was this one. Okay,
it was a Jisoji episode.
This is Jisoji Underground. Yes. Okay, I immediately recognize this. Yes, okay. So funny enough, I remembered like we've seen something that looks like this before because it has like the little like rolly like legs kind of or whatever, where it's like it looks like a bunch of like balls squished on top of each other to create the legs or whatever.
Yeah, it is funny. They're just like, oh, the Telesdon suit's too garbage, so we have to
invent a new kaiju.
Make a new kaiju out of its corpse.
Yeah, that's curious. That combined with what you said about the sponsors being like, maybe don't make a bunch of the old ones return. I'm curious how many old faces we will see in this show.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because Ultra 7, we saw one, and it was the dumb plant vine thing. I can't wait for it to show up a third time and for Red to put it at the bottom of their list.
And again, forget what it is.
Forget what it is.
It'll happen. We'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was at the bottom of mine too, or not close to the bottom. That thing sucks.
So, is this episode also a Honda episode?
No, this is a new guy. This is Masanori Kake, who, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes when I do these episode production things, I'm like, oh, this person's just boring. And like their online summary of like who they are and what they do is like, oh, here's where they went to school and here's the movie studios they worked for, and then like here's some stuff they did, I guess. He is one of them.
Damn.
Completely unremarkable history, apparently. The one thing of note is that outside of doing some like random TV stuff here and there, he is the main director responsible for Toho's long-running Company President movie series, which was like a 30-plus movie thing for a while that was a comedy about a womanizing buffoon of a company president who isn't really great at his job and finds himself in all sorts of absurd situations with his employees and friends.
I see.
Like, that's his one big claim to fame.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, he did all right here, I guess. I mean, this, it's a good episode, but...
We didn't talk at all about, like, the Ken and Aki scene.
So what is the Ken and Aki scene in this episode?
They're looking at the car, but Hideki's distracted because he's thinking about the kaiju.
Right. Yeah. It's a fine scene. It's
Yeah, like what happens is Ken notices Hideki's distracted, and he's just like, "Oh, we're done for today. We're done." And then like Aki somehow shows out of nowhere that like, "Hey, Go, can you teach me how to do music? You know how to do bars, right?" Because apparently Hideki knows how to do bars.
Oh yeah.
And so they go play guitar for a bit.
Go gives her the worst guitar lessons in the world. Off at the sunset. He's just like, no, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this, and then just sings what it goes like.
Someone put together an edit where they're playing Enter Sandman.
Excellent.
They're playing Wonderwall actually.
Yes, actually, it would be. Yes, okay, yeah, you got a much better, much funnier song choice.
I like the part where like Jiro shows up and wants to hear about Matt, and then Ken's like, go do your homework, and then sticks him in some tires.
It's pretty good.
Ken's good. Ken's good.
But yeah, all of this
stern mentor.
All of this stuff was where I was like, oh, like, okay, we're going to be seeing the work-life balance of this guy.
It's like an actual
his
TV
personal
show.
life. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Television.
TV is here. Thank God.
Good. It'll never top. Nothing like this. Nothing that ever does the work-life balance of the hero who has developed new powers. Nothing will ever top season 1 of Symphogear. Which is
I think Gento needs to take some work-life balance lessons from
Hibiki.
Hideki.
Oh, from Hideki, right? Hibiki, like, sort of, getting a new job and and her wife thinking she's kind of cheating on her is so funny. TV has arrived. Many similar plots, and so difficult, tricky to necessarily find like loads to talk about. But these are decent episodes.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Like I said in the production history, the show starts taking off later as they start responding more to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like,
what we have here is a strong start, I would say.
Yeah, it's like a good foundation, especially relative to like the earlier shows. And like, if it gets even better, that's like, good for us. The baseline is good.
It's funny because we've talked about this before, and I've talked about specifically what I expected the show to be. A lot was like almost like a harmonizing of like a synthesis of like Ultraman and Ultra 7 together into like one thing. And going through like the production stuff and all that, and actually watching the episodes. Funny enough, the only part of that I really felt like I was like, oh, like this reminds me of Ultra 7 was the suit design, which like for the Monster Attack team members, which is funny that you called out. I was like, oh, okay, that does make sense. I like the new uniform. I actually think these are the best uniforms we've gotten so far. I'm a sucker for like bold color with black stripe though.
Yeah. I think it took a while for the Ultra Guard suit to grow on me because it's an interesting shade of blue. And meanwhile, the SSSP suits are really, really goofy.
Yeah.
I have never been more of a hater in my life than when I saw those fucking ties.
No ties on the mat suits.
Yeah.
What the hell were they doing?
It's not thinking. But yeah, it's just like, oh, they're doing Ultraman, but with like a lot stronger of a framework, I feel, just in terms of setup and what they're focusing on episode to episode. So
I'll be curious if as we go on, we'll see more Ultra 7 seep in, or if maybe that's more in like the other shows.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. And also, I feel like that's a thing where I could understand them, considering how Ultra 7 apparently didn't perform how they wanted to. I could see how they would maybe be a little bit hesitant to more broadly do that stuff, while maybe still using some of the, like, techniques and lessons learned in terms of effects and like little more formal things, I guess, finding their way in the show versus like, oh, we want to do like a sci-fi type thing more so than the superheroic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm having a good time. It's a strong start.
Yeah, I mean, if this is like our baseline, then the next 4 months bode well for us.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it is a good time. Now.
Speaking of time,
Yeah.
The bit has returned.
finally, a known quantity that won't own me.
In the first episode of this show, we are informed by the narrator that Ultraman can only stick around for 3 minutes. And the color timer is a warning that those 3 minutes... Oh no, it's... Hang on. So what are the rules again? It's like, is it...
I guess just like the time's running out as the lights starts blinking.
Yeah, and so he can only stay as Ultraman for 3 minutes. So...
Alright, so we gotta keep him honest.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Color timers are back. Okay. So episode 1. 2 minutes, 23 seconds.
Okay.
Episode 2. 1 minute, 18 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 3. 1 minute, 41 seconds.
They're honest so
So
far.
is this the time that he stayed as Ultraman? Or is this the time?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Like, I timed the transition, the transformation, start of the transformation, to where basically the first second to the last second Ultraman is on screen.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah. If they go over 3 minutes, we'll know.
Yeah.
We'll have it on record. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess, do we have any emails?
We do.
I kind of guessed we would have an email.
Yeah.
We tend to a lot these days. From our fourth host.
Yes.
Cedric Sarah sent another one for the premiere.
Hello.
They say, howdy, time for the man to return, etc. Hope the opening episodes have been to your liking. I think the show has a strong start myself. Coming back to the show will never be quite the same after Dan's death, rest in peace, but still good to hear perspectives regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for reminding me how I single-handedly gaslit the entire Toku community into believing a false truth. You're welcome. That plot summary you read was mostly by me back 6 years ago, but I take it you read it from the episode page that was created later on, not Alien Talk, because I swear I don't remember writing about the bees. Okay, so... my source for this was a Japanese website that had the full plot summary. I've since been able to find it's on the same website, but the page and episode's been removed, so make it that way you will.
Where did the fucking bees come from?
Someone else came up with the bees. This first email will be shorter because don't want to repeat information from the pre-production wise, so they'll just give us anything we missed next week.
All right.
One thing to my point is that the show was scored by Toru Fuyuki. Of course, they're just a music person, so they know this stuff. This is the same person who did the 7 OST, but aside from the opening theme, which was made by Koichi Sugiyama for that show. Or for this show, I'm not sure. One of the most famous composers who was responsible for every Dragon Quest OST. Oh no, it's that guy!
Oh!
Yeah,
No.
I was like... Should I cast shade right now?
Oh, no.
Oh wait, this is
no.
the I crab raved this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, the Ideon soundtrack is a fucking classic.
Unlike Rest in Peace, Jordan, Koichi Sugiyama, Rip Bozo.
Pack watch.
You did go hard on that Ideon movie though. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
The song was as is probably already mentioned, was performed by Light Jordan himself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, wait, so Jordan sang the opening theme of the show. That's cool.
Yeah.
bonus trivia. This makes a return of Ultraman, the second Tokushow after Surprise owned Kaiju Booska to have its theme song sang by the lead actor.
Nice.
Bonus trivia. Some would say that another Superhouse show called Emergency Directive 10-4-10-10 did feature one of the teams as the lead singer for an OP, but was the main character, so doesn't count. Just as a side, that show, which I just named, is basically Ultraman 66, but without Ultraman, and it's just a Science Patrol show, which is interesting.
Okay.
It's not subbed, but the raws are out there.
Mm-hmm.
As Cedric also noted that the very next day after episode 1 of Return, another Toku show aired. Don't know if you heard of it, etc.
Yeah.
Random note, but they enjoyed Red explaining what a Brucey bonus was. So
you do not understand how hard in the past 2 hours I've been trying to workshop or throw in a Brucey bonus joke, and I had no opportunity. I was very sad.
They said they'll strive to be more British in the future.
Oh no! Never do that. That's a recipe for disaster in life.
Just in the email.
If you do that, American Prometheus will need to turn it up a notch to counterbalance things.
No,
I'm afraid. One final thing. They never expressed how appreciative we are of the podcast and its release schedule. Not naming names, but they find that usually podcasts on Toku Media are done by people who don't care much about anything other than the newest shows. Or they're just people who they don't like listening to. But they like us listening to us, so they'll think we have good chemistry or funny. Actually say the things that you're talking about and are like intelligent and makes this experience more enjoyable. Their work
this is because people who start media at the very beginning are just factually smarter.
Listen, if you're
going to
flatter us this much, email every week.
I need this will improve my self-esteem.
Validation's
greatly.
fantastic. Thank you very much.
A new email every week.
Email of the week.
Don't email every week. That's too much for any person to have to fit into their schedule. But when you got stuff.
Yeah. Their work week runs Monday to Thursday, so having Blazer on Monday has made the journey home on the first day tolerable, and then the regular episode Thursday are also really good.
Sorry about tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's not our fault. That's
it was a recap episode.
Yeah. Thanks for continuing to do this. I'm glad I've been able to contribute and help enrich your enjoyment of the Ultra series as well. They'll give us later details for things to come as they come. Looking forward to the Ultra episode next week. Thanks you, the Cedric Sir, for the playlist that you curated for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I think they sent me an addendum later, which I'm just going to quickly go get.
Okay.
There's 2 particular episodes that they are flagging for us. And in some ways, this is spoilers by saying don't look at the episode titles because they're spoilers.
Okay. I just won't look at episode titles.
I mean, that's easy for you, harder for...
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna do.
I mean, I think
that.
if I checked, one of these was like on the first episode of a new disc, so you're fine.
No, but when I pull up the when I put in the Blu-ray, it starts with the menu with all the episode titles.
I mean, like
if
it's the first one on the disc, that means when you're gonna watch the episode, it'll be the first.
Just close my eyes and hit X on the PlayStation.
I mean,
controller.
I just assumed that you would see the title anyway. Like you'd only see the title when you're about to watch the episode anyway. So.
Okay.
That was my thinking.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But anyway, the episode they're flagging, do you want to hear them? Or do you...
Sure.
Episode 17 and episode 41.
17 and 41. Let me write that down.
Their titles are victims of the very annoying old school Toku thing of revealing the thing, but that should be a big surprise right there on the title.
Mel, do you know what these titles are?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I don't know. I have an idea of what the 17 one is about, which I won't say, but I have no idea about the 41 one.
I'm not going to make any great effort to avoid I'm not going to go out of my way to see them. I'm not going to make a great effort to avoid them, if only because I'm not too fussed about the spoilers, and I do actually... I kind of enjoy the oddity. Like, you know, when original Gundam has, like, next time... someone's gonna fucking die.
So dies. Yeah.
That's
I mean, it's also just like the TV of the era in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will be completely honest. I don't know if I've talked about this before on this podcast. I am the most I can count on one hand the amount of times in my life that I actually feel like spoilers have bothered me. I'm very easy, like I'm very easy in my brain to like compartmentalize, like, oh well, like I wasn't supposed to know this, but whatever. Like I appreciate things even with a lot of knowledge beforehand. So I'm not going to be too stressed about it. But for the sake of the podcast, I feel like I will try to avoid it. But you know, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah. And like I'll get you back to you on like future seasons where I'm trying to be harder on the spoilers for like the next stretch of seasons, but like, you know, that's not relevant for this season otherwise right now. So we'll get to it when we get to it.
This show, I genuinely do not know anything about. Like I could not tell you one, like going into this, I could not tell you one fact I knew about Return of Ultraman. I guess other than the fact like AJ Tsuburaya is dead, right? Like,
Yeah.
Rest in peace, AJ Tsuburaya.
Yeah, he died 60 years ago or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He died as he lived, Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in heaven now. All right. Well, I think that's an episode of a podcast.
Yeah,
I think it is.
a new season.
So
We're in a new era. It's fun, exciting.
plugs. If you want to follow me, no, if you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at ultra_Q. That is at ultra_QUEUE. As a little Brucey bonus, if you want to follow me on Twitter, that is at gender_redacted. Mel.
Hello, I'm on the various sites at Dear Crowns. We got a YouTube, UltraQPod. No. The YouTube's UltraQ. We have the email, ultraqpod@gmail.com. We have the coffee, UltraQ Fund. And you know what? This is the first episode of a season. Hey, if you like the show, tell people. And spread it around.
Yeah.
I think we're doing good.
I think so.
Yeah. Resin.
Make people watch Ultra 7. Sorry.
True.
Yeah.
Also Ultra Q.
I'm Rosenbrand. Yeah. I'm Rosenbrand. You can find me places at Rosenbrand. That's RASENBRAN. If you want to hear me ramble on for, I want to say, oh god, how long did that stream go? Too long. More than 4 hours, I want to say.
I haven't watched the rest of it yet.
About what my top 100 video games are. You can find that on my YouTube channel.
Also worth it.
Red and Mel were there. 4 hours, 48 minutes of me ranking the top 100 greatest video games ever made, definitive, 1080p, 60 FPS. And I tagged along Red and Mel. I was not expecting Red to be up, but then I messaged them and I was like, do you want to hop in on the stream? And they're like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay, hell
I did
yeah.
have to be quiet. I apologize for the audio.
Elden Ring's strongest soldier.
No, the opposite of that.
And we had a good time. That was a fun stream. Honestly, one of the more fun streams I've done as of late.
All right, sick. Wow. There will be no Blazer this week, just because it's a recap episode.
I mean, to be fair, that was the past by the time they get this.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
they
so
already know.
stupid. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, well, as you already know, there was no Blazer this week. Sorry, rip.
There'll be one next week.
There will be one next week, and yeah, join us next week. Not for 3 more episodes of The Return of Ultraman, but for a little special something that we're gonna do while Rasen's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be cold and in North Dakota.
Yeah, we're gonna do Ultra Fight, and I don't have to introduce it because I already did this episode.
Yeah. All right, and then the week after that, we'll be back on Return of Ultraman, whether Rasen is here or not.
Back to normal.
I will write in with my thoughts on the episode if I am not here to give them properly.
Yeah.
We just want all of us here for the premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We really had to work this one out. It was interesting.
I made a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Mel's number 1 favorite hobby. All right.
Yes.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Later.
Wonderman